Hello once again, everybody, and thank you for joining me in the Bettor's Box. It's BangTheBook.com's MLB betting podcast for Monday, April 22nd. I am your host, Adam Burke. This and every edition of the Bettor's Box presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the Sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. Monday, Thursday format here with the Bettor's Box, although on Tuesday, tomorrow, we will be recording an NFL draft podcast with some prop bets, some overall insight on the draft coming up here on Thursday, so you definitely want to make sure that you look ahead to that. Over at BangTheBook.com, we've got my daily MLB picks and tips piece. We've got NBA series previews and picks from our talented writers. Park Michaels still killing it with the NHL playoffs, doing a fantastic job breaking those games down. Have a golf preview up for you today. NASCAR returns this week, so that'll be up probably Tuesday or Wednesday. Another UFC event this weekend, so we'll get more thoughts from Christian Pina, including a special edition podcast here on either Thursday or Friday. So we got a lot of stuff going on over at BangTheBook.com. Once we get into May after the draft, we'll start doing some NFL season win total stuff. Then in the month of June, we'll start doing college football season win total stuff. So very busy coming up here over the offseason for football and with a bunch of baseball stuff still going on. All right, so you know that it's Monday, which means the Monday Mailbag. If you ever have questions for the Mailbag, at Skating Tripods on Twitter or Adam at BangTheBook.com via email. Also, that is the way to get the notes for the show, by emailing me, Adam at BangTheBook.com, asking to get put on the list for that, and I'll add you to the list, and you'll get the notes every Monday and Thursday here with the Bettor's Box. So we'll start off with the Monday Mailbag. Then I'll go beyond the box score. Then we'll take a look down the lines with some line moves from this weekend. A couple picks for you on today's show. And then finally, a preview of the week ahead. So let's go ahead and start with the Monday Mailbag here. And in fact, we start with an NBA question from Nick via email, longtime listener of the show. Nick, thank you so much for that. Says, I have the Raptors to win the NBA championship at 67-1 for one unit. What would you suggest is the best way to hedge this out? Well, obviously the big thing with any Eastern Conference NBA future is that you have to consider what your hedging price is going to be in the finals when they take on the Golden State Warriors. So you don't want to be very aggressive with this hedge throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs. So I think you have to let this thing ride through the Philadelphia series. Joel Embiid's been in and out here. The Raptors have home court, which means they should be up 2-0 because they've been a very, very good team on their home floor here over the last several years. I know they lost the first game there to the Magic, but I think that was just one of those outlier performances. I think you have to let this one ride through that likely Philadelphia series. The Nets are nowhere near the Raptors defensively, so I wouldn't worry about what Philadelphia has done here in that series. I think you look to hedge in the Eastern Conference Finals. Maybe look to hedge to the point where you can win somewhere between 3 and 5 units. Hope for somebody to beat Golden State. But, you know, obviously, even with a 67-1, which is a very nice price, with Golden State likely in the finals, if Toronto gets that far, that's a big number. You know, Golden State probably, if I had to throw out a number right now, minus 1,500, minus 2,000. So maybe minus 2,000 is a little high. Maybe minus 1,200, minus 1,500, something like that. So obviously you have to leave yourself a lot of hedging opportunity on the back end of this thing if the Raptors get to that point. So I think you have to let this thing go in the Eastern Conference semis. Maybe you look to do something in the Eastern Conference Finals. I wouldn't do a pre-series hedge in the Eastern Conference Finals, especially if they play Boston and have home court advantage there. I'd look for a better price as the series goes along. Toronto's certainly good enough to take a couple of games from Milwaukee. So I would be very timid, very conservative here with a futures ticket like that in the Eastern Conference because you're going to need so much on the back end to get any kind of profit out of taking a Golden State ticket at the end. So that would be the way that I would look at it, Nick, and thank you so much for the question. A couple of questions here from our good buddy Rich Lamons via email. The first one here, while the horse is yet to earn a spot in the Derby, Bourbon War should be automatically entered into the field just on name alone, right? And absolutely, no doubt about that. If you can have any bourbon reference for the Kentucky Derby, you absolutely have to do it. But good for Rich to bring this question up because next week we'll do a Kentucky Derby pod with Brian Blessing. I'm excited to start my Derby prep here later in the week, then carry that over on into next week. I'll have an article for you and the Kentucky Oaks. That's the 3-year-old filly race And then we'll talk about the Kentucky Derby next week with Brian Blessing on the show. So absolutely keep an eye out for that. Rich brought up a really good point here with this second question. And in fact, I actually forgot about this from last year. It was a profitable angle that teams that lost game one of a doubleheader were 22-12 in game two of the doubleheader. So far, they're 1-1. They should be 0-2. The Braves should have lost the nightcap there on Saturday against the Indians. But, a very good trend, something that we followed a lot last year. Again, 22-12 in game two of the doubleheader for the team that lost game one. But this has been something that's been different over the last couple of years. In 2017, it was about 60%. Last year, 22-12. Prior to that, as Rich mentioned here, running the Killer Sports query database for this stat, in previous years, it was well below 50%. In fact, 55.6% was the high point. That was 2008. Last 2 years, 60% or higher. So Rich kind of wondering here, any idea why the significant boost in splitting doubleheaders in recent seasons? I think it's really just a matter of more awareness about player health. Really the goal of any doubleheader is just not to get swept. So if you win that first one, you're pretty happy with that. Maybe you go with a lesser lineup in game two. Bullpen usage, obviously different here as well. I think another part of it, too, is that, recently Major League Baseball added that 26th man. When you play the doubleheader, usually that 26th man will be a spot starter for one of the two games. So you'll throw a regular guy in game one, spot starter in game two, or vice versa. When that happens, you're probably going to split these more often than not. So I think the 26th man getting a start, and the Indians didn't use a starter. They actually called up John Edwards as the 26th man for some extra bullpen help. But the 26th man, again, usually that spot starter, usually a guy who's just kind of on the cusp of the big leagues, or a prospect getting a call up for his first big league start. A lot of times those guys can struggle in those games, and the managers will put the lineups together so that they can have a better lineup going up against that spot starter or that call-up guy. So I think that's primarily the reason why, is that you're usually not using two major league caliber starters. You're using that 26th man in one of those two games. I believe that was a rule that probably came in, I think, 2017, actually, ironically enough. So I think that probably makes sense there as to why it's kind of flipped a little bit, and why I would expect that we're probably north of 60% here again this year with the team that loses game one winning game two. Finally, one more question here for the Monday Mailbag. This is from Eric via Twitter. He says, you refer to league averages a lot on the pod and in the article in regards to identifying regression. What database do you use for those stats? Overall, I've had this question a lot on where I get my information. Fangraphs, Baseball Savant, which is the home of StatCast on the internet. Baseball Reference has a lot of good stuff as well. Things from the writers over at The Athletic and stuff like that. But primarily Fangraphs and Baseball Savant. And when you're looking for league average in a lot of things, it's typically a range of a lot of teams and a lot of players are going to be between X and Y. You look at batting average on balls in play, BABIP, for example, league average is typically between 290 and 310. So when you look at league average BABIP from last season, it was 296 overall. So collectively, all hitters averaged out to a 296 batting average on balls in play. The highest teams last year were 317, 313, 309, 307, then two teams at 304. The lowest teams were 277, 283, 285, and then three teams at 286. So you had a couple of big outliers with teams over 310 and under 285, but most of the league falling between that 285 to 310 range. So when you see outliers like that, and I'll talk about some of those here in a few minutes for 2019, you can expect that they will regress towards league average. Now, that's something I think I need to clarify here at this point in time, is that not everybody will be league average. The outlier on the positive side and the negative side will regress towards the league average. That does not mean they will regress to league average. They will regress towards the league average. Usually, if you're a big outlier one way or another, you're not going to be that big of an outlier over the entire course of the season. You will gradually regress towards the league average or towards that expected range. So that's what I mean with regression analysis, handicapping, and then also the degrees of regression that I've talked about before. Some teams are going to be an outlier. But they may not be an outlier to the degree that they currently are. Bad offenses with low contact qualities, they're probably not going to post a league average batting average on balls in play. But they're also probably not going to be 40 or 50 points below the league average. That's the overall point that I'm trying to make here. When I talk about regressing towards league average, I'll say usually to league average, but I mean towards league average in a lot of different ways. Now, a lot of times I'll use Fangraphs for that because I know what the expected ranges should be. Sometimes I'll use Baseball Savant, especially when it comes to the exit velocity data. The search function, very useful over there. And if you subscribe to the notes, again, adam@bangthebook.com via email. On Thursday, I sent out the YouTube videos I did of using Fangraphs to handicap baseball and using Baseball Savant to handicap baseball. I recorded those last summer. They're relevant at this point in time. I'll probably put the links in the notes here again for today's show for those that didn't get the notes on Thursday. But those are two very good things for you to check out over on our Bang the Book YouTube page. Just go to YouTube and search using Fangraphs to handicap baseball. Both options should show up there. But again, you look at last year for batting average on balls in play. Between 289 and 304, 14 teams between 290 and 300. So again, the vast majority of the league going to fall into an expected range. The teams that are above that range or below that range typically going to regress towards league average, towards that range. Another stat that a lot of people like to look at, left on base percentage. Last year, the league averaged 72.8%. The highest teams, 77.9, 76.2, 76, 75.8. The lowest teams, 69.4, 10.6, 69.9, and 70%. So you will get some teams that do overachieve as an outlier on the high end, but on the low end, obviously, the lowest team, 3.4% off of the league average for all pitchers. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at. That's why I look at individual starting pitchers. If you have an 85% left on base percentage and the league average is 72, 73%, well, that's going to regress towards the league average. You won't fall all the way down to 73% in a lot of ways, but maybe you regress back to 80% by the month of June. Then you regress back to 77% by the month of August. So you're still doing a good job of stranding runners, but a lot of guys will regress down towards that league average range or that league average number. So that's a lot of what I'm looking to do, and one of the reasons why you need a lot of sample size for these things to go at. So again, individuals can be higher or lower, and they always teams fall within an expected range. Hopefully all that makes sense. Again, check out my notes, adam@bangthebook.com via email to get on that list. So with that in mind, let's start today's Beyond the Box segment with that and look at some major outliers right now on a team basis in terms of batting average on balls in play and left on base percentage. The league average for this year right now, 292. That's all hitters. The sample size of all hitters with a 292 batting average on balls in play. The highest teams so far this year, the Rays at 331, the Nationals 324, Braves 323, Mets 322, Diamondbacks 316. Again, remember that last year, the highest team in batting average on balls in play was at 317. Ironically enough, that was the Tampa Bay Rays. So they are capable of sustaining an above-average batting average on balls in play, but one team was at 317 last year. We've got 4 teams above that so far this year. So I would look for some offensive regression from those 4 teams that are higher, the Rays, Nationals, Braves, and Mets. And ironically enough, the Nationals, Braves, and Mets have played each other a lot this year or have faced a team like the Marlins or something like those 3 teams. As they face better competition, as they get outside the division, I would expect all 3 of them to regress. So maybe the Nationals, Braves, and Mets, some unders or some fades when they go outside the National League East. The lowest teams right now, and again, keep in mind, league average 292. The lowest teams, the Reds at 225. Angels 257, Giants 261, A's 263, Padres 270, Red Sox 272. Again, last year the lowest team 277. Right now we have 6 teams below that mark. So I would expect positive regression from all 6 of those teams. Now, the degrees to which there's positive regression will be a lot different. The Reds, for example, at 225, they'll get hot offensively and make a big spike, probably when they get back home, when it warms up a little bit at Great American Ballpark. The Angels were the team that was last year at 277, so their degree of positive regression probably going to be a little bit smaller than somebody like the Reds or somebody like the Red Sox. So again, all of these teams in line for positive regression, improvement, regressing towards the league average, but they're not all going to be to the same degree because these are varying levels of talent among these offenses. And, when you look at the Reds, last year they were fourth in batting average on balls in play at 307. This year they're dead last by 32 points. Largely the same lineup. Not a whole lot has changed for them. Expect the Reds offense to get things going here sooner rather than later. League average left on base percentage across the league, 73.3%. Now that's for all pitchers in the aggregate with their averages. Now the reason this is up a little bit from last year, more strikeouts and more home runs. You clear off the bases with a home run, those runners are taken off the board. You're going to have a higher left on base percentage as a result. The highest teams here, again, league average 73.3%. The Cardinals, 80.9%. They are a big regression candidate to me, both in the starting rotation and especially in the bullpen. Rays at 80.4%. Rays were one of the high teams last year as well. The Reds at 78.8%. Pirates 78.4%. Giants 77.6%. And again here, keep in mind, the highest last year, 77.9%. The highest this year will probably be a little bit higher than that because, as I mentioned, we're seeing another strikeout increase and more home runs allowed, but probably in the 78.5% range, something like that. Well, we have three teams in that range or higher here. So actually 4 teams, in that range or higher here so far. So regression will come in terms of stranding runners for the Cardinals, Rays, Reds, and Pirates. When it comes, I don't know. But again, the expectation is there that they will start allowing more runs. So overs in their games or going against them on the money line. The lowest teams here, the Mets, 64.8%, White Sox, 65.9%, Red Sox, 66.3%, A's, 70.1%, Nationals, 70.2%. Again, league average, 73.3%. The lowest last year, 69.4%. 3 teams below that here so far, Mets, White Sox, and Red Sox. Would expect those teams to start doing a little bit better in terms of stranding runners. And when you look at the Red Sox here, again, bottom 6 in batting average on balls in play, bottom 3 in left on base percentage. I've talked a lot about how little luck they've had on high velocity contact. A hot streak is coming for the Red Sox. They're going to run into one of these scenarios where they rattle off 10 of 13 or 15 of 20, something like that. It's coming. I think it's coming very soon. And in fact, as we transition into taking a look back at the weekend here, they just swept the Tampa Bay Rays. And maybe that's the start of it for them, the start of their positive regression offensively. 6 home runs, 5 doubles in a place where it's usually very, very tough to hit. I think the Red Sox are about to get hot. It will be chalky, especially with who they're facing here in their upcoming games. But I think it's about that time for the Red Sox to go on a run, see some positive regression offensively, especially with that high velocity contact, and see some positive regression from the rotation. Rick Porcello was better this weekend. Eduardo Rodriguez was better this weekend. I think both of those guys should be better going forward. We'll see if Chris Sale gets it figured out. I think the time is now to buy on the Red Sox. You're going to pay some chalky prices for it, but if they win, you're still cashing tickets there. I think the Red Sox are about to get hot. I think that is something that you want to keep an eye out for. If you want to maybe even play some run lines with them, just to kind of cut down on that juice a little bit. I think the Red Sox are about to get hot, and probably blindingly hot at that. Like I said, probably 15 of 20 or something like that. Maybe that was the start here of it this weekend. And for the Rays, again, offensive regression is coming for them. That 331 BABIP is not sustainable despite what they're doing offensively from a philosophical standpoint. A lot of ground balls, a lot of high velocity contact, stuff like that. They're still going to fall off a little bit in that department. So offensive regression probably coming. But then also this bullpen has worked a ton of innings lately. Jose Alvarado, Diego Castillo, Adam Kolarek, 12 of 22 games they've appeared in so far. Castillo had a little bit of a rough series here against the Red Sox. You got to be very careful with this Rays bullpen right now. Hopefully they get Blake Snell back into the equation, but they're getting a lot of work, a very steady diet of work. They've been very, very good at the outset of the season, but I think that early season workload may catch up with some of those guys a little bit. So the Rays, maybe a little bit of a fade team on my radar here now, but again, I think the big takeaway is that the Red Sox, they're ready to get hot and they're ready to go on a run. I think it's coming here very, very soon. And quite frankly, as good as the Rays are, as impressive as they've been in a lot of different areas, I will not be surprised if the Red Sox are in first place going into the month of June. That's how hot I think Boston can get and what I expect from the Rays, with a little bit of regression both on the offensive and the defensive sides of the equation. The Rockies took 3 out of 4 from the Philadelphia Phillies here at Coors Field over the weekend. Phillies, they have a high walk rate, they hit for power, and then they go to Coors Field and score 14 runs in 4 games. Not a great look for them at all. 6 shutout innings from Kyle Freeland, didn't walk anybody. German Marquez scattered 10 hits. He wasn't particularly sharp, but the Phillies just never got that big hit. John Gray pitched well on Sunday. The Rockies, with 39 chances with a runner in scoring position in this series, only had 8 hits, but I think it's about time to buy the Rockies now as well. Freeland and Marquez have settled in. They're pitching pretty well. John Gray looks good. Chad Bettis and Tyler Anderson are very scary at home. But when you look at this series here, a lot of positives for the Rockies. You know, the bullpen is pitching pretty well. Their 2 horses in the rotation are pitching well. Gray has gotten back on track. And Charlie Blackmon here, you know, after Thursday's game, he had a 221 average with a 274 on base, 299 slugging. What he did Friday to Sunday, had a couple of home runs, had a triple, had 3 multi-hit games, up to 286 average, 340 on base, 462 slugging. Big series for him. David Dahl is back now. Arenado and Story should get better. I think now is the buy sign for the Colorado Rockies at home. Now, I am against them for the first 5 today with Washington. That's over in the article. That's largely a fade of Tyler Anderson. But I think that going forward, the Rockies are a team to back now at home. Again, I'm against them here today, but I expect that their offense will start to get things going. Daniel Murphy's out on a rehab assignment. He'll be a nice big boost for them. It's about buy time for the Colorado Rockies here. Hopefully we didn't miss the boat with them last week, taking 3 out of 4 from the Phillies. Again, against them today with Hellickson and his low walk rate and his contact management skills, up against Tyler Anderson coming off the DL. That's mostly a fade of Anderson, as I mentioned. But I think going forward here now, the Rockies are a buy team, particularly at home. How about the Toronto Blue Jays? They sweep the Oakland A's on the road. Some strange things going on with Oakland right now. Offensively, they've kind of gone in the tank a little bit here. The bullpen has been very hit or miss. Joakim Soria has not pitched very well. Yesterday's game became a bullpen game with Brett Anderson leaving with a sprained ankle. It's always something for that poor guy. But only 6 runs in 3 games in this series for Oakland. 4 doubles, no home runs. You got to give Toronto a ton of credit. Their pitching staff's been very, very strong early on in the season here, but they take a big hit this weekend with Matt Shoemaker going down with a torn ACL. Aaron Sanchez leaves his start with a broken fingernail. Marcus Stroman's pitched really, really well. We'll see if they can get Trent Thornton back on track here in their next series. But for the Blue Jays, great pitching so far, but now the injuries working their way back into the equation. We'll see if they slot Thomas Pannone back in the rotation now for Shoemaker or for Sanchez. Stroman's pitched really well early on here. Hopefully he's able to stay healthy. But the big thing for me in this series is that the A's just looked awful. Just not much offensively from them. We'll see if they get it back on track here tonight. They've taken heavy money against the Texas Rangers this evening. Lefty Mike Minor going for Texas tonight. The A's are always going to take money at home against lefties. So that's an angle that you want to look for there in terms of the betting market. But rough series here, rough look for Oakland in this one. How about the Cincinnati Reds? They go on the road, take 3 out of 4 from the San Diego Padres. And, of course, yesterday I mentioned a lean on the Reds for the first 5 innings. They didn't come through there. But the Padres, 2-10-4 in their last 16 games for the first 5. They're putting a lot of pressure on this bullpen. And the reason why is because this offense sucks against right-handed pitching. You look at the 4 starters that the Reds threw at them here Tanner Roark, 5 1/3, 4 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Anthony DeSclafani, 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 6 punchies. Luis Castillo, 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. Tyler Mahle yesterday, 6 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs. He gave them all up in the third inning. Didn't walk anybody, struck out 9. In this series against the Reds, right-handed starters up against the Padres, 23 1/3 innings, 17 hits, 7 runs, 4 walks, 29 strikeouts. The Padres are batting .223 with a .285 on base and a .401 slugging percentage against right-handed starting pitchers this season. Anybody that can generate strikeouts from the right side is a bad matchup for the Padres right now. So either play first 5 unders or you play the other team in the first 5. The Padres have 517 right-on-right plate appearances this season. That's the most in baseball. Seattle is second. The Yankees are third. The Tigers are fourth. By the way, they have a .579 OPS in those right-on-right plate appearances. But this is a problem for the Padres. They are exceptionally right-handed heavy. When they face right-handed starting pitchers that don't walk guys and have at least decent command, it's a bad matchup for the Padres for the first 5 right now. So you absolutely want to keep that in the equation here. A lot of right-handed starting pitchers for the Diamondbacks. The Dodgers have a few with Maeda and Stripling. The Rockies obviously have several with Marquez, Gray, Bettis. So this is an angle you really want to hone in on here. It's not the Padres starting rotation that's hurting them. It's their offense when they face right-handed starting pitching. And they've faced a lot of it here of late, and they have not had much success in that split. Again, a .285 on base percentage against right-handed starting pitchers. So when the Padres face a right-handed starting pitcher, either play the under or play the other side. And we'll see if that plays out here with the Mariners coming to town for a 2-game series with a couple of righties in Eric Swanson and Felix Hernandez. All right, let's go down the line, talk about some line moves here dating back to Friday. We saw a big fade of Jordan Lyles on Friday. That was against Madison Bumgarner and the Giants. Bumgarner actually pitched really well after a shaky first inning, but Lyles was fantastic. Couple really good starts from him already. Let's see if that dynamic changes here for his next start, and if we see that the market actually trusts him a little bit more. And the market's not going to overreact to small sample sizes, but Jordan Lyles is a pretty good starting pitcher. Pitches in a very good park at PNC. We'll see what happens here with his next start coming up on, I don't know if it's either Wednesday or Thursday. We saw money hit the board here on Caleb Smith and the Marlins on Friday. That was against Anibal Sanchez and the Washington Nationals. That did work out. The Marlins did win that one. We did see some buyback after the initial move. We've seen a lot of that here so far this year. A lot of those big initial moves are coming back up towards the opening line. So not as much to talk about here in the down the line segment with not as many noticeable line moves from open to close, but keep that in mind. A lot of numbers grabbers going out there getting these things, then seeing the arbitrage crowd buy back and free roll the game. Saw heavy money come in on German Marquez on Friday. That was against Vince Velasquez and the Phillies. Marquez was not particularly good in that game. The Rockies were able to outlast the Phillies in a bullpen affair there, but Marquez and the Rockies taking money at home. Marquez probably going to take some money here going forward as well. Saw a very big fade of CC Sabathia on Friday, about a 70-cent fade in that start against Jake Junis and the Royals. Look, the market's always against CC, and I don't know why. I like CC. I love what he's done, reinventing himself as a pitcher, very heavy slider usage. He's a Hall of Famer in my mind, going to get 3,000 strikeouts here in either his next start or the start after that. I don't know why the market hates this guy so much, but that line moved, like I said, 70 cents. CC and the Yankees did wind up winning that one. Saturday, we saw some money come in against the Pirates. We also saw money come in against the Pirates on Sunday as well, and here today on Monday. A lot of that has to do with the absence of Starling Marte. Marte is a great defender, the best offensive piece in that Pirates lineup. I think right now the odds makers have not accurately priced his absence well enough, so the market looking to do that. So we saw that fade on Saturday, some money against them on Sunday, and definitely money here against them today with Zach Godley and Joe Musgrove. And we will continue to see money come in against them, especially with Trevor Williams pitching on Tuesday. But with Starling Marte out, it's a very big loss for the Pirates. A little bit of a fade of Luis Castillo on Saturday. As I just talked about, the Padres cannot hit right-handed starting pitchers. Saw money come in against Castillo. I think that was an instance where the market just felt like Castillo, because of all the line moves, because of the adjustment that the odds makers made, felt like it was a sell high moment on Castillo. I disagreed with it, but we'll see what that looks like here going forward if we've got another sell high situation later in the week here with Luis Castillo. Sunday, we saw more Marlins money at home. That also lost once again. Steven Strasburg, Trevor Richards in that one. A lot of Marlins money at home that has not come to fruition for the betting markets here so far. Saw a fade of Clayton Kershaw on Sunday against the Brewers. Milwaukee's going to take money against lefties. Start in and start out. Doesn't matter if it's Kershaw or somebody else. That was the case there in that game on Sunday. Saw some money come in on Noah Syndergaard and the Mets yesterday. It didn't work out, but I agree with the fade of Dakota Hudson. It's definitely something that I would be looking to do as well. He didn't pitch great, but Thor was a little bit worse than he was. The Cardinals, their bullpen is in line for a lot of regression. Like the Cardinals, I'm playing first five. If I have any indication I like the other side, I'll play a full game against St. Louis right now because their bullpen has really overachieved, especially from a left-on-base percentage standpoint. A lot of lineup-related moves on Sunday. We did see a small fade of Shane Bieber for Sunday Night Baseball. Bieber did not pitch well. Braves take 2 out of 3 there in that series from the Indians. So looking at Monday here, again, I mentioned already, fade of the Pirates. Again, I think that the Starling Marte absence is just improperly priced right now. That's Zach Godley going up against Joe Musgrove. Seeing a fade of Tyler Anderson in his return. Again, I like the first 5 for Washington in that one. Tyler Anderson, just not a guy I really like too much. I want to. I really, really want to. But not inducing ground balls at the same rate anymore. That's a bad thing at Coors Field, especially with that Rockies outfield defense. I just don't love Tyler Anderson here tonight. Seeing money come in against Tampa Bay. That's Brad Keller and the Royals going up against the Rays here. And that Rays bullpen really, really worked a ton here of late. Yanni Chirinos getting the start here today. Not in the opener role, just getting the pure starting role. We'll see how that works out for him and for the Rays tonight. Saw some initial money on Matt Boyd and the Detroit Tigers. Now we're seeing buyback with Chris Sale on the mound for the Red Sox. And I just want to throw this out there to you. If you're looking at Chris Sale's career numbers against Detroit, it means jack shit. It means absolutely nothing. It's a mostly new team for the Detroit Tigers. Right now they've only faced one left-handed starting pitcher this season. But those career numbers don't mean dick when you're talking about a team that's had the level of turnover that the Tigers have had. So, we see this with Chris Sale going up against AL Central teams all the time. It doesn't really mean anything. It's largely irrelevant because those teams are much, much different at this point in time. It's why team versus pitcher stats are pretty much useless across the board because there's so much turnover. And look, even if you face a team 4 or 5 times in a season, and maybe you've got a decent sample size of 120 innings, something like that, how many of those guys are actually still there, 3, 4, 5 years after the fact? Not a whole lot. So don't worry about Chris Sale's numbers, his career numbers against teams, or any pitcher for that matter, because they just don't matter that much with that level of turnover. Seeing some heavy Oakland money hit the board here. That's, again, Mike Minor and Chris Bassett. Oakland will always take money at home against left-handed pitchers. So one of my picks for tonight, as you know already, Washington for the first 5. That's a fade of Tyler Anderson at home. If you don't want to play Washington and Jeremy Hellickson, Washington team total over for the first 5 makes some sense. The over for the first 5 obviously makes some sense. I don't know how much of that is available to people, so I don't want to put things like that in the article. Would I be more comfortable with Washington's team total for the first 5 over? Absolutely. But, I don't know if that's available to everybody. I want to be fair to all the readers and listeners out there. So Washington first 5, the official play, but Washington team total over for the first 5, maybe a little bit better of a look there than the first 5 money line. But I also like the Yankees tonight. Look, they've got a full lineup on the DL. They literally have a top 10 lineup on the disabled list right now with all the guys that are there. But Jay Happ, huge home road splits last year. You talk about pitching at Rogers Center and Yankee Stadium, that's not easy. You talk about going on the road to more favorable pitching environments, big, big difference. I wrote about that today in my article over at bangthebook.com. Check that out. But I like Jay Happ and the Yankees here tonight. It was minus 105 for the article. I think I saw minus 104 before recording here. But Happ is going to a much more favorable pitching environment. Matt Harvey's got a lot of things wrong. I know it's a patchwork coupled together lineup for the Yankees, but I'm a big believer in J. Happ tonight. Again, maybe your play there instead is Angels team total under or something like that. But, I want to be fair to everybody. So I like the Yankees tonight with Happ in a good pitching environment going up against Matt Harvey and the Angels there. All right, so let's take a look at the week ahead here. 4 series on my radar. We start with that Diamondbacks and Pirates series. Zach Godley, Joe Musgrove tonight. Luke Weaver, Trevor Williams tomorrow. Merrill Kelly and Jordan Lyles on Wednesday. Zach Greinke, Jamison Taillon on Thursday. Long 4-game series here for the Diamondbacks. And some of their offensive regression is hitting. We talked about it last Thursday with their numbers dropping off on high-velocity contact. Now they're going up against some contact management guys in Joe Musgrove, in Trevor Williams, and to a lesser degree, Jordan Lyles and Jamison Taillon. I think Merrill Kelly is a regression candidate. I think Luke Weaver's a guy where the stuff has looked better than the numbers would suggest. Greinke with a day game in a pitcher's park. This is a fascinating series. There's a lot of layers to this series here between the Diamondbacks and the Pirates. I'll write about all 4 games in the picks and tips piece. I don't know if I'll have action on all these games. I don't tonight, but tomorrow's an interesting one. Wednesday probably be on Jordan Lyles. Then Thursday we'll see what happens. But really regret not being on Zach Greinke in that series against the Cubs. I haven't had a lot of bets I wish I would have played this season. That was one of them. Greinke's kind of figuring it out a little bit here. And again, good pitcher's park for him on Thursday. So really interesting series. A lot of people are probably just going to write it off, but I'm very intrigued by it, especially with how good the Pirates bullpen has been here so far this year. The Yankees and the Angels. The Yankees go from that little league field at home to an actual baseball stadium here for a 4-gamer on the left coast. Happ and Harvey tonight, as I mentioned. Domingo Germán, Chris Stratton tomorrow. CC Sabathia, Felix Pena on Wednesday. Masahiro Tanaka, Trevor Cahill on Thursday. 4 right-handed pitchers here for the Yankees with, as I mentioned, an entire lineup worth of dudes on the disabled list. The Yankees are anti-fastball, so they're trying to generate a lot more swings and misses and weak contact with breaking balls. The Angels are anti-strikeout. They have the lowest K percentage in baseball this year, one of the lowest last year as well, but they don't make a lot of quality contact. So this could be a series with a lot of unders in it. Not sure about today's game with Happ and Harvey. I think going forward, we could see quite a few unders here in this series as the Yankees see some negative regression offensively going to a better pitcher's park, and as the Angels go up against the lineup with a focus on contact management now and swings and misses with that anti-strikeout lineup. Another interesting series there. Maybe some late-game degenerate action this week for us in that Yankees and Angels series. The Nationals and the Rockies. Hellickson for Anderson tonight. Patrick Corbin, Kyle Freeland tomorrow should be a good one. Anibal Sanchez, Germán Marquez on Wednesday. Will the Nationals fare better than the Phillies did offensively? That's a pretty good question here. Freeland and Marquez, a couple of home starts to get things figured out. Corbin with a tough start on the road at Coors Field, but he pitched there as a member of the Diamondbacks, so he knows what he's doing going to that ballpark. We'll see if the Rockies can keep things up. Like I said, I think it's a good time to buy the Rockies. Maybe not against Patrick Corbin on Tuesday, but I'll probably have a Rockies ticket on Wednesday with Anibal Sanchez there going up against Germán Marquez. Finally, one more series to take a look at here. The Dodgers and the Cubs. Kenta Maeda, Jose Quintana in the first one. Walker Buehler, Cole Hamels in the second one. Ross Stripling and the return of John Lester on Thursday in the third one. 3 lefties for the Dodgers here in this series. They lead the league in both weighted on base average and WRC plus, weighted runs created plus, against right-handed pitching. They're 10th in weighted on base average and WRC plus against lefties. So we'll see how they fare in this series. Lester was a big regression candidate before the injury. I'll probably look to fade him on Thursday. The Dodgers with a 14% walk rate against left-handed pitching so far. Cubs staff, major walk rate issues. Could be some high-scoring games here in this series. Check the win forecast. Totals will be posted late, but we could definitely see some runs here in this series, I think, with 3 righties going up against the Cubs, 3 lefties going up against the Dodgers, some walk rate issue guys for the Cubs. You've got, Buehler's allowed some has allowed some pretty good contact this year. Stripling has had a lot of problems. I think Thursday the over may be the better play in that Stripling versus Leicester game. But obviously, anytime these two teams get together, a lot of intrigue, a lot of money in the market on games like that. So just some food for thought there for that series. I'll be back on Tuesday with an NFL Draft podcast. Thursday, another edition of the Bettor's Box. Friday, UFC segment. And then next Monday, the Bettor's Box. Next Tuesday, Kentucky Derby. Then next Thursday, the Bettor's Box again. So good busy times here on Bang the Book Radio and also over at bangthebook.com. I'll do it for me. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. And remember that you'll never strike out when you're in the Bettor's Box.